Hello everyone. Welcome to my sharing session today. It's very nice to see you all again. As you know, my name is Edgar Kampers. Nice to meet you again. Okay, currently I'm working as the COO of DAP Financial Community, and in this sharing session I will share the topic, how Dafco P2P Lending will perform during the economic crisis. Okay, so let's talk about economic crisis. What is an economic crisis, one may ask? An economic crisis is a significant deterioration of the national economy. It is a serious decline in economic activity that has taken place over a long time, making the economy worse and worse. This is a factor that causes the recession of the economy and the business development cycle of a country. The economic crisis is the loss of direction and stability in the economy, a period of economic recession. Okay? For example, there was a credit crisis that began to emerge as far back as the year 1772 in England. And this was followed by the Great Economic Crisis. Okay, so processes that began in 1772 eventually led by the Great Economic Crisis from 1929 to 1939, which is also known in the US as the Great Recession and the Great Depression. Okay? So even results from the Great Depression still had effects on the economy and world financial markets, even up to the 1970s, when there was an oil price shock from OPEC in 1973. All of these things combined to eventually affect the Asian financial crisis of 1997, and finally the financial crisis of 2008. So these processes of depression and recession take a long time to unfold, and unfortunately we might be coming into another period of recession soon. Okay, so an economic crisis can happen within a country or within a specific region, but it can also erupt all over the world. And of course, no country can avoid the negative effects that this crisis has caused. In particular, the consequences will be more serious when the economic crisis hits poor or underdeveloped countries. So for example, if the UK and the US have a big economic crisis, these ripples will be felt everywhere. Okay, so the economic crisis can include three main types. Type 1 is the surplus crisis, the shortage crisis, and the debt crisis. Okay? An excess crisis is the continued production of goods while consumption is limited. Let's say, for example, that Ford produces 30,000 cars, but people don't have enough money to buy these cars. So now you have an excess of cars. What do you do with these cars? Ford now doesn't have the capital that they once had, so now they're having trouble because they were anticipating money coming in for the cars. Now that money's not coming in. Okay? So this is when supply exceeds demand. This crisis occurs when machines gradually take the place of people in production also, leaving them with no money to buy those consumer products. So you'll have a lot of people's jobs being taken over by robots. Now these people, in essence, don't have the money to buy all these products. Okay? So that brings us to the shortage crisis. It is a crisis in which the supply source is not enough to meet the demand of the market. This means that there are so many people, if we stay with the Ford example, so many people would want to buy these Ford cars, but now there's not enough Ford cars. We call this the shortage crisis. Okay? In other words, it's a crisis in which the supply source is not enough to meet the demand of the market, causes the prices of the products to rise. Right now we have Ford cars ranging from $25,000 to $50,000 and sometimes $70,000. But during a shortage crisis, these cars can double and triple in price. Okay? So the shortage crisis has pushed prices of products so high that they are hard for people to afford, especially after rampant inflation. All right? So those are the first two types. Now there's also, finally, the debt crisis. This is a crisis in which the national government is unable to repay the national debt, so leading to a debt crisis. However, this crisis is not as dangerous as the crisis of excesses or shortage. It's only a matter of creditors and debtors coming together to make deals, essentially, of how to, pay off loans and pay off debt. Okay, so with the above information, everyone has also seen a part of the impact of the economic crisis. Next, I will talk more deeply about the negative effects of the economic crisis. Okay, bad effects caused by an economic crisis can occur in many different ways. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the crisis that shook Asia in the late 90s so that you can understand better, because I think this is a very accurate example for what we're talking about today. So the Asian financial crisis was a financial crisis that started in July 1997 in Thailand and then affects stock markets, major currency centers, and prices of other assets in several Asian countries. Asia, many of which are known as the East Asian Tigers from a financial market sense. But there was felt a significant impact from this crisis. The crisis was also commonly known as the Asian monetary crisis. Okay? And as we saw, the crisis had caused serious macro effects, including currency devaluation, which is a serious problem, stock market crashes, and property devaluation in many Asian countries. Many businesses went bankrupt, resulting in millions of people being pushed below the poverty line in 1997 to 1998. Unfortunately, the most affected countries were Indonesia, South Korea, and Thailand. The economic crisis also led to political instability in Indonesia and Thailand. One serious and long-term effect is that the GDP and GNP per capita in US dollars and purchasing power parity decreased. The devaluation of the local currency is the direct cause of the phenomenon. So in particular, the per capita income of Thailand decreased from $8,800 US dollars in 1997 to $8,300. Okay? Also, in 2005, Indonesia's decreased from $4,600 to $3,700 US dollars. Another example was Malaysia's decreased from 11,100 US dollars to 10,400 US dollars. Okay? So those are extremely severe consequences that have affected the whole world when the economic crisis appeared. So I will share with everyone about Dafco's operational strategy when the economic crisis occurs in order to fight against this crisis. And I believe that Dafco has a very good strategy to combat this problem. Okay, so the operation strategy of Dafco P2P Lending in the case of economic crisis. Okay, let's talk about that. So, as everyone has witnessed, the COVID epidemic is currently raging around the world. It is the main cause that makes things like the tourism, food supply chains, service industries virtually bankrupt at this point. I mean, they're just hardly hanging on and still being propped up by the governments. But unfortunately, that propping up can't last forever, so we need our own strategies. Okay? Some of the examples of the hard-hitting COVID pandemic in the financial world include, but definitely are not limited to, Apple, big companies, even big companies like Apple, Starbucks, IKEA, and many others have temporarily closed the chains of stores in China. You know, for example, deserted malls immediately threatens sales of companies like Nike, you know, Under Armour, McDonald's, just to name a few, but there are many, and not to mention the small businesses that are privately owned. They're really hurting right now. So another one, the car assembly plants for General Motors and Toyota have also been on hiatus and have effectively stopped working. So owners of a series of fashion brands, such as Zara, Pull & Bear, Berkshire, have temporarily closed a series of stores in 39 countries, unfortunately. At the moment, Zara has closed more than 3,700 stores around the world. Now this, when looking at a world economical, financial point of view, these are not good signs. So, why is the Dafco P2P Lending platform still in effect? Let's talk about that. That is because everyone in the world who only needs to be a participant in the platform anywhere can execute transactions normally, still, even in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. Because this is not the traditional system where you have to be there in person. We can do this right from the phone, right from the laptop, from anywhere, whenever, wherever we desire, okay? So, especially during a difficult period like this, businesses such as, tourism, the food industry, the service industries, hotel and restaurants, it's extremely difficult for them to do business because this is an in-person business model. Now, P2P lending is seen as an important factor that can help these industries get through these difficult times, as the Dafco P2P lending platform can help them to get the money they want to stay in business. Okay? So this can give owners of the above areas a large sum of money to pay off, okay, in the form of lending, okay, along with some of the hefty returns investors can get when investing in our lending platform. Our lending platform is available to do a lot of lending to help the economy, to help these businesses, okay? So it's not just a lending platform, but at the moment it brings a huge network of lending across the whole world, not only increasing returns for investors, but also helping the economy writ large, okay? So the world thrived despite the effects of the COVID epidemic, which caused a worldwide economic crisis at this time. For example, the US stock markets, even now, are still doing very well, thanks to systems such as the global P2P lending. And the global peer-to-peer lending industry will continue to grow at a tremendous rate. Financial analysts are predicting 51%, up to 51% by 21, and could potentially reach 290 billion US dollars by 2021, even though the COVID pandemic is still present around the world. Okay? So, in particular, despite the challenging times for all the industries in the world, the P2P lending platform still performs very well. For example, Lufax has grown into one of China's largest online lending platforms, with a valuation of $38 billion, 4.6 times bigger than Advon, okay? While the COVID pandemic is still appearing in the world, the P2P lending platform is still active and developing strongly despite COVID all over the world, such as in the UK, France, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, many other places. And as of 2021, there are still more than 10,000 active P2P lending platforms around the world. And this number continues to grow. Okay? So because of our P2P lending platform, we have the following advantages. Income higher per lending offices, access to significantly higher returns for investors than any other savings account or fixed deposit rate. According to the report, lenders who invest in our lending platforms are making a return of 18 to 26% per year. Okay? These are great numbers, tremendous numbers. Lower interest rates, as you know, banks charge high interest rates from borrowers for personal and consumer loans. In some cases, the interest rates from the traditional banks can be up to 20% of the loan amount. This is just, in comparison to the P2P lending program, there's a lot more money to be made with P2P, okay? As I was saying, the P2P lending platform allows borrowers to get loans extremely easily at reasonable interest rates, rates that you can lock in and rates that will not increase. Okay. Also, from a feasibility standpoint, although the lending platform P2P Lending is a business activity that is closely managed, it has no initialization process and does not have the long and cumbersome loan processes and big charges of conventional banks. As a result, people can take advantage of loans in just a few days without, having to do a lot of legal processes. In other words, it's a lot easier. Okay? So due to the ease of this, like we were talking about, it's just one click on your phone or your laptop, okay? The P2P program also has a lot of flexibility. Getting money for a loan or investing in the P2P lending platform is relatively easier than conventional banks from a convenience standpoint. Furthermore, investors can also withdraw their funds from the platform at any given time. All of this happens on a secure and transparent platform with no government intervention, meaning that you will save a lot more of your own money, and you have a lot more potential to earn a lot more money without an intermediary. Okay, so with growth showing no signs of stopping with the P2P lending, and with the above great advantages, Dafco P2P Lending platform proudly affirms that we are not only contributing to the development of the world economy, but also helping businesses and investors around the world to overcome this crisis. So along with the help of authorities all over the world, many countries and institutions are taking action to control the spread of COVID, especially Vietnam. Vietnam is controlling the spread of the epidemic very, very effectively. So this is our opportunity to once again grow stronger, as well as to truly establish ourselves as a great driving force to help the P2P lending platform grow further in the future. Okay, so this is all the information I want to share with everyone today who's been very actively participating in today's Zoom session. I hope with the above useful information, people can come up with a very reasonable strategy to invest in our P2P lending trading platform. Thank you all very much for taking the time to join my sharing today. I look forward to seeing you next time and giving you more information about the P2P lending platform, which you can invest in very wisely. Thanks again. See you next time.